My name is Allie. I'm a foreign student studying in a small town in Germany. At the time this particular event happened, I was still living in Berlin. I lived in an old apartment with an older lady who rented the unit to me. The kitchen connected the two apartments that she owns, so we technically live in separate units, but we share the kitchen. The star of our story is, however, not the lady. She is nice. I still talk to her sometimes. The apartment building is 5 stories high with a staircase, no elevator. We live in the 2nd story. The lady who rented the unit to me has always had a problem with the neighbors right downstairs because they were always very noisy. They fought a lot, and when they are on their balcony, it always smells heavily of smoke. The neighbors downstairs are an older couple, probably in their late 50s or early 60s. I didn't know much about them except for their phone number and their names, which the landlady scribbled on a piece of paper for me in case they got too loud so that I could call them. Turns out I never needed the number to get to know them. One afternoon, as I was cooking, the doorbell in the landlady's apartment rang, but she was out. And not long after that, it rang on my side. So I thought it must be her guest trying to reach out or something. So I looked at the peephole, and there stood some older lady. So I thought it must be the landlady's friend. So I opened the door, and to my surprise, there stood the said lady without pants. As in, she was with a shirt, but was in her underwear. Now, at that point, I was only in Germany for a couple of months, so I wasn't really sure if that was normal, and my German was also not that good. This lady was mumbling something that I could barely make out, but since she rang the bell on the landlady's side first, I assumed she was looking for the landlady, and I tried telling her with the best German that I could that the landlady was out and will probably not be back until later. But this lady still stood there mumbling something. I really could not understand her, so I just shook my head apologetically and smiled. So she began gesturing me to come with her, like she wanted to show me something. So I quickly turned off the stove and I followed her downstairs after grabbing my keys. She then started to ring a bell on the door right below us. Oh, so this is the neighbor, I thought. Then came another wave of shock because she repeatedly rang the bell. A man came to the door with no piece of clothing on except for his socks. I tried so hard not to make my weirded out face very apparent because I wasn't sure about German customs yet at that point, and I didn't want to be rude. And so this must be the husband. She gestured me to come in. I was starting to wonder what her actual intention is calling me all the way down here. I thought it was something important for the landlady. But she just offered me something to drink, and I declined. But she insisted on getting me water anyway and walked into the kitchen. Now, I am still standing near the front door with this man who is now staring at me from top to bottom. To be honest, he looks kind of drunk, and right at that moment, I remembered how the landlady used to tell me that all they do is fight and get drunk. So I just smiled at him and stood there awkwardly. But he decided to suddenly be friendly because he kind of just grabbed my shoulder and dragged me inside of the house to show me different rooms and the balcony and their small garden and everything. I mean, the house itself is beautiful. Such a contrast to the people living in it. It was uncomfortable to say the least because he was very much naked and staying at a very close proximity to me. His arm on my shoulders, and he was just looking at my face so closely. I could feel his breath on my face. He then proceeded by asking if they had a beautiful garden. I just said yes and kind of laughed awkwardly. Thank God the wife came out from the kitchen at this point, and then she started shouting at him for doing what he was doing. She told him it was no way to treat a guest, and she handed me my glass of water, all the while still wearing no pants. I never drank the water and quickly excused myself, saying that I needed to check my cooking upstairs. After some debate, I got out of the house, but the lady is still holding me at the door, pleading that I could stay a while and sit at the garden with her. I was ready to come up with more excuses before someone came through the front door of the building and interrupted. It was the young man that lives 2 stories above us. Apparently, he just got back from grocery shopping, and he somehow dealt with them and told me to go back upstairs. So I went and waited upstairs to thank him. He was done talking to them after about 2 minutes, and he came upstairs to ask if I was all right and told me not to get mixed up with those folks because they are apparently known to be problematic. So yeah, he saved my day and I thanked him for it. After that experience, I kind of just hurried my way up to my apartment every time I got back from somewhere so that I wouldn't run into them. I actually met her once more after that. She looked sober and was wearing pants this time. She didn't seem to recognize me though. Thankfully. I have since moved away from there.